It is mock draft time. Hollywood, Nate, feels like we have talked a lot about the rankings, and let's put it to practice, my friend. What's up, Hollywood?
What's going on, man?
Not too much, buddy. We haven't done a mock yet. I'm excited. This has been a lot of rankings and back and forth, and not a lot of actual implementation of those players. And mock drafts are, well, let's be honest, everybody loves a good mock draft. It's fun. It's kind of it's a good learning experience. And you and I get to shoot the shit just solo. It's not really solo. It's just together, tandem drafting against each other. And we welcome to Shoot the Gap. It's the IDP podcast for Fantasy and Frames Network. If you're new to the show, this is Hollywood Titan. I'm Nate Markham. Hey. We're the IDP podcast for Fantasy and Frames, as I said. We bring every week typically nothing but content and strategy and rankings and Taylor Swift. But this week, I know, never again. We've got a couple of our friends. We're going to do a little mock draft. It's a 12 team, 12 round IDP only mock, where we're going to have 3 defensive linemen, not really doing true position as much as they kind of, we're going to use sleeper default settings because this is designed for that. I don't want to say beginner IDP player because that's not fair. But I think that if you just had 20 people start an IDP only league, I think this probably follows suit with what would be the most normal, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Standard kind of balanced scoring. Nothing too crazy. And like I said, 3 defensive line, 3 linebacker, 3 defensive backs, and 3 flex spots. We have our friend Mace in the 1 spot, and we're going to have some autos. I really just wanted it to be me, you, and our friend Eggy draft in and let the computer do it, but we have some of the best friends in the business, and they didn't want to let us mock by ourselves. And so we bring in, a few of our friends. We will have some autos, but we have the 1. I have the 3 spot. Hollywood, you had taken the 4 initially, and I said, hey, quit crowding me. Get away. We spend enough time together. Let's mock from different ends so you don't, honestly, that way you don't take all my players because my strategy.
I really thought about taking the 1 spot, really.
And honestly, I thought it was going to be, I figured we could do that, 1, 6, and 12, spread each other out. But you and I at 3, I'm at 3, you're at 11. You're sandwiched in between actual people, and I'm sandwiched in between computer. What would you rather have if you had to choose? And it was a real league. Let's say that you knew that you had 2 auto drafting friends next to you. Would you rather be sandwiched between the auto drafters or 2 humans?
Ooh. I think I'd want 2 live, right?
I mean, I would.
They may not be thinking there needs to be a whole lot different. So, yeah. I guess the upside with the auto is if you can kind of go by the rankings of what they're auto drafting, right? You can kind of guess who they're going to take, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I guess that's for me at 3. There's not too many situations where I'm going to see it and think, all right, well, good. But going back into that turn at say, 2, 3, got to rely on Mace, but this would be interesting to see how this unfolds. Obviously, Vitor, what's up, my man? Thank you for following along. If you're following on Twitter or X, jump over to the YouTube page because we can't read your comments, and we'd love to have you obviously subscribe. Hit that little bell button. You'll get notifications every time we go live. And I think that we're going to have a few more of these mocks IDP-wise on Shoot the Gap because, well, Hollywood, there's only so much, we have some camp battles we can talk about at some point. We have obviously some news to update. There's a lot of new signings. some injuries, and I'm interested to hear how that's going to unfold. That's the problem with the auto picks. Some of these guys might not have their draft position change as a result, but we'll see. We'll get started here in just a second. Jamie, well, good to see you, my man. My home for all my fantasy needs. He does love us all. We love you as much, if not more. And let's do this. Let's jump right in. Mace, if you're following along, I know you're at dinner right now, so put down whatever you're drinking. And let's go ahead.
Will not.
He will not. Yeah. Well, I'm going to mute mine so that we don't have to listen to it. And now, 1 and 2, I don't have much time to chitter chatter. Max Crosby. This is what I was going to ask you about. Nick Bosa, of course, did not go to practice. He is, whatever, sitting out. What do you think as far as where Nick Bosa would fall if the drafts were tomorrow, not knowing what he's going to do?
I think with there still being time before the start of the season, I think that's flopped. He probably goes where Crosby goes.
Yeah. Well, but let's say, drafts tomorrow. He still hasn't joined the team. There's talks of holdout or whatever the case may be. What do you think? Do you think there's a chance that he slips even further? Do you think people are willing just to, is there a chance he gets into the end of the first round with those concerns?
I think so, but it's going to be the closer is the season. Right now, there's no panic, right? Everybody's kind of watching, but they're not really panicking. You've got 4 weeks of preseason a month basically, before we kick off live. So
come on,
ask me in 2 weeks, then I think he drops a lot.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I would love to take advantage of the situation and love to have him there, especially if we can fall any further. Because, all right, is that me? I think so. Yeah. I'm sorry for that, everybody. There we go. Nope. I'm trying. I ain't the brightest sometimes, but it's on you, Hollywood. So the first round so far, Max Crosby, Micah Parsons, Roquan, both first 2 quote-unquote linebackers, if you will, Nick Bosa, then a string of 4 straight linebackers, Foye, Bolton, TJ Watt. Fred Warner at the 8 spot intrigues me because, of course, that's an auto pick, but we've talked a lot about Fred Warner, Hollywood. Is there any situation Fred Warner's creeping into your first round?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. You guys love Fred Warner.
Make a pick there. We'll see if I was right.
See if you think he's going to follow. What was your thinking? Tell me about it. So you went with Zaire Franklin.
I took Franklin, which, considering who's already come off ahead of him, right? Warner, Bolton, Olakun, Smith. I think he's the next one. Oh, so I was right. So, hang on, let me make this pick real quick.
No, you're good. So,
so with that thinking, you've got Franklin, Devin White, a couple of others that are kind of close, maybe depending on how you look at them. So, I started to go Derwin James here because my fear was with this guy having a double up, would he go linebacker safety? And with Derwin James and Devin White, that's probably easily 2 of the what? He got him at 12, and I got James at 14.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting 2 top 15 players that way. So I thought maybe he would take James. I did not see the Thibodeau coming right here, though. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I tell you, I hear more and more hype. Not that I don't think that Thibodeau deserves the hype or anything, but I continue to see his name bandied about with a lot of the early on. Like
I love the dude. I like it since he come out of Oregon, right? When he was up there dominating.
Oh, he's a beast. What's up, Gator?
Yeah, I think it just took him a year. Plus he was kind of nicked up last year, so that kind of set him back. But I think this year you're going to see what we saw at Oregon, just somebody that dominates. So, yeah. Now that I think of it, that's not a bad pick, but I just wouldn't have expected him at pick 13 overall.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So let's round out here what we have. Like I said, Kayvon Thibodeau. I guess, the other thing is, that's question is, do you think he would make it back? And that's obviously the part of that. Before we go quick, Jamie says he's been getting into IDP Superflex hybrid drafts this year, and this is the first ever straight IDP draft he's seen. That's good. That's exactly. So a lot of times, I'll tell you, this IDP only is a completely different animal. There's no doubt about that. It is
right.
It's a little overwhelming for some because you don't know exactly the order. Like with that defensive backs, that's where a lot of guys do wait, and they say they're comfortable waiting on defensive backs because it's deep. But man, the separation at first from that first overall down is quite large. Hollywood, round out with some of the second round as I make my pick.
So I took James at 14th overall, then Brian Burns, Aiden Hutchinson. So those two were kind of close, followed by Jalen Petrie, Bobby Okereke, and then we had Sauce Gardner by Iggy, our first corner. So he was taken ahead of some safeties, which when you get ready, we can kind of discuss because I didn't see that coming. Minka Fitzpatrick, Will Anderson Jr. There's your rookie right there. That's not a bad pick. And then Bobby Wagner for redraft. Yeah, I'll take him there. Patrick Queen. I actually like that pick because he's already got Parsons, right? And then you've got Judon and Logan Wilson on the turn. So.
Yeah, I love and look at that. Mace deciding to go with the getting paid division or team. Matthew Judon signs an extension today. So does Logan Wilson. Max Crosby's set. And I'm sorry, Jamie. He's new to IDP this year, but he's in the IDP Guys Invitational Tournament. That's fantastic. In the Black Widow division. Then I am in the Ant-Man, I think, division, if I'm not mistaken. It is a great tournament. You will love it. It's a great way to get kind of familiarizing yourself with how the draft and when to take that jump. There's no true answer because sometimes you have to, as they say, be water. And as the other players, if they zig, you zagging is not always the best case scenario for drafters who are new to IDP. If you don't want to be the last to jump in, but you also don't want to be, actually, you know what? I don't really care if you start the runs, if you can establish and actually start the run. I'd much rather have the guy at the top of the tier than, the bottom of the tier. Looks like Sean is in the Thor division. Hollywood, which division are you in? Do you know?
I'm not in. Something happened, and I missed it or something, but something happened, so I'm not in this year.
The hell? Well, I'll let you. You can watch my team.
It's weird because I got a link to the team, right, to the league.
Yeah.
And I can click on it, but when I go to click on it, it says there's no team link to me, so I don't know what happened to it. But...
That's very strange.
Well, next year.
Yeah, absolutely. You can watch me struggle like I'm struggling with these picks. That's the one thing with this 30-second clock. We thought we were getting smart by making it faster and having plenty of time to chat. And with all these picks, I'm scrambling because with the last pick. So I have Roquan, Bobby Wagner. Love those two from a linebacker perspective. Both in my top 5. And then I have Kyle Hamilton as is he early? I mean, for me, no, because that's where I have him ranked overall as my DBs, and I'm good with that.
Right.
But I can understand the concern for people taking him over the Buda Bakers, the Jaquan Briskers, maybe L'Jarius Sneed. Right. All right, I'm gonna just do this. I don't love it, but I need a defensive. Oh, look at that back-to-back Commanders.
Wow.
Oh, there it goes. That's who I was looking for, is Danielle Hunter, and I got sidetracked. Great pick by Mace. He's Max Crosby, Danielle Hunter, Matthew Judon, Logan Wilson, Devondre Campbell. Whew, I tell you, that is a fantastic start there. You read off team number 2 for us. Why?
That's pretty impressive considering you start 101, right? That's a long haul back to your second and third pick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. I like that. What'd you ask me now? Sorry. I got sidetracked.
Read team number two's team. Yeah.
Yeah, so team two was looks like it was the auto pick. So they took Parsons, Queen, Quay Walker, Chase Young, and Terrell Edmonds as their first five. So 3 linebackers and a DN to DL. Oh, you suck, man.
Me?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't really
an ass.
love taking it. So what he's referring to is Kevin Byard. Last week we did our defensive backs top 12. We had Gary Davenport on, and collectively we all feel that Kevin Byard is one of those guys that if you're going to, especially he's the person that you want to start. If you want your top 3 defensive backs, he's the guy that comfortably you can pick and not feel like you're too far behind if he's your number 1, because he does everything and he does everything extremely well. Just, injuries cost us a little bit to see the upside, but I'm intrigued with the auto pick. That's the one bad thing about sleeper ADP is that we've seen now 3 corners go. Sauce, definitely way too early for this format. And then
I think
Trayvon Diggs. Oh, I do too. And Jalen Ramsey. Yet they, if you get a league where, pass defense obviously have bonuses and things like that, and that's where you should pay attention. I love what Team 9 with their linebacker. We're all over the place. I'm sorry, but Shaq Leonard fell to the 5th round at the 509. I know you're up
too
next.
high, too low.
I think that's a great spot for him. I love that. I keep looking at some of the names and I feel like we are hurting our cases at the end when we have to break down our team and people look and think that our team suck, because I'm seeing people like Jalen Phillips that I forget that Sleeper has as linebacker instead of defensive lineman that could have a benefit some plays. Sean has if you draft like Team
really
4,
jacked me up with that pick. I just want you to know that
shit. You will have a long season, and yes, if you have Bosa, Will Anderson, Hufanga, Baker, and Diggs, we're wrong. It looks good on paper, but yeah, it makes for a long season. What is a good tip that you may have for a person drafting their first IDP league?
I feel like I say it every time I'm asked. Know your scoring. You have to know your scoring.
Yeah,
if you know that, then you've got a dang good chance of just being decent, right? A decent team. Because a lot of people, they just don't know their scoring. And it's my turn to pick.
Yeah, so Hollywood has Zaire Franklin, Jack Campbell, Josie Jewell, great pick by the way there, at linebacker, Derwin James as his starting safety, adding Jeffrey Simmons, defensive line to the mix. Aaron Donald at the 311, criminally undervalued this year.
I know, right? I 311. Just think about that. Aaron Donald in an IDP-only league is 311 in a 12-team league. So he's 35th.
Yeah. I know that they're getting older.
That's insane value. I could not pass that up.
No. And
especially when your boy Chris Jones went 1 pick right in front of him.
Now, Chris Jones will have more responsibility because we just saw that Charles Omenihu is suspended for his usage of whatever, it was. He pushed a woman down, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
Which is big.
Gotta love the value for Carl Loftus and the DK now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So there, I took Zadarius Smith as my second pass rusher, which I needed followed by Javon Holland, Cameron Curl. And then Mace follows up. Not only does he wait to get Cameron Curl as his defensive back one, love that. He follows that with his third linebacker and Azeez Al-Shaair, who we're all big fans of. Al-Shaair upside this year with Tennessee, do you think, Hollywood? Is he I know where you have him in the rankings, but you're pretty comfortable as him as an LB2 come season end?
Oh, yeah. If he's LB2 for me, or gives me that kind of production, then yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah,
you have to be, and I think he's going to be closer to the LB1 range, right?
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I don't think I'm not too concerned with Monty Rice taking any action from him necessarily.
And they have Jack Gibbons and somebody else. I mean, they don't really have anybody behind him. So
right now, Jamie says that Kevin Byard is always one of his last picks in a 30-player draft for Superflex, only starting 5 IDP. Yeah, that's. I mean, you have to look at it. 5 IDP flex league with 12 teams. In a 30-player draft, at 30, I'm guessing that's 30 rounds, not 30 players in the league. But then again, you never know. I've seen crazier things. So. Love Kevin Byard there. You know, I mean, I think he's in my top 60 overall. I think that's where I would have him if there's 5 players at 12 teams apiece. It makes sense. And then as he also mentions, scoring is 100% the most important because I can tell you there's nuances that you go in and you look and all of a sudden you find that quarterback hits score 2 points. And you see a person like Matthew Judon, or at linebacker last year, Frankie Louvu is someone who had a ton of QB hits, and that propelled him into that elite tier because you took advantage of one scoring metric. And Jamie did say that is 12 teams, 30 rounds. So yeah, you take your top 60 overall IDP players. I don't want to say that. That's bad. You should never say IDP players because P stands for player, but I do it all the time. So if you do it, don't feel bad. I do it as well. We've now gotten to the end of round 7. So for the most part, the only thing I've seen is that there's been an emphasis on corners that you typically don't see all the time, but I can understand this in a format like this, it's not the end of the world because come season's end, the amount of the heavily targeted cornerbacks always seem to rise up, like Patrick Surtain and some of the others we've seen. Troy Anderson is very intriguing, especially at the pick 12 there. Brokaw, who's done so many mocks with us. Anderson, we saw the tape. The first tape we saw against Bijan, he shut him down in coverage. And everybody thought, oh, man, Bijan down. Or was that Kyle Pitts? I think maybe it was the Kyle Pitts video. But regardless, Troy Anderson up. And then he gets burned on the double moves by Bijan, which everybody's getting burned by a running back one-on-one in practice in shorts. Of course, you're going to get burned. And so then Troy Anderson's down. But I love the upside as far as the snap share that he should see, 3-down situation, and a team that is going to most likely funnel a lot of action across the middle and unfortunately keep drives going because even though they got better, I don't think they got that much better. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're on mute just in case, but I know you agreed with me anyway. So then Hollywood follows up. It's all right. Like I said, you had Zaire Franklin. You now have 3 of your 3 defensive back spots filled, and Derwin James, Jesse Bates, Grant Delpit. Great spot there for Delpit. Your linebackers. You pretty much have one more DL to go with, and then all flex spots. What are you filling your flex spots with primarily in balance scoring?
Ooh, I think I play it safe and go with like your inside linebackers, middle linebackers, maybe your strong safeties. Kind of keep it simple and stay in that kind of grouping, and then look at maybe who's been doing it the longest and doing it consistently. Maybe take take the safe side. But if you want to shoot, you may, maybe look for a rookie or something. Which Devin Witherspoon is a corner for Seattle.
That's
kind of high.
Uncanny. So here's I'm going to say this right now. Devin Witherspoon is a person who I have I literally wanted to talk about because his move. So where he went right there based off of ADP on this, I don't like. What I do like is so the most recent reports are that in Seattle, he has been moved into a nickel and he's going to play there primarily. And what they love is that he has been just dropping people twice his size in practice.
He is not scared of the run game at all.
No.
At all. That dude is a dog.
Yes. and what we saw,
people off, he's so good.
Dude, he's getting really – so he's forcing basically people like – and there goes Harrison Smith, who was a great pick for Mace. That was going to be my next spot right there. I should have taken him over Quiddy Pay, but I didn't. I have a soft spot in my heart for Quiddy.
Value. 9th round for Harrison Smith.
Yeah,
wow.
Spectacular value. And so that is where the one thing with Devin Witherspoon is that if he's into the nickel, and Kobe Bryant had a good year there, and Kobe Bryant's not the player that Devin Witherspoon is, and so they're definitely going to move him around. I heard Pete Carroll just gushing about Witherspoon. So if you're in a league, and I tell you, and I'll put this up here because yes, Hollywood ain't leaving anything without Jesse Bates. He loves him some Jesse Bates. He's top 12 for him, defensive back, rightfully so. He's earned your respect, and he should have earned all of our respect by now. There's no doubt about that. But what I was saying is, if you play in a league where you have a cornerback designated position exclusively, I think Devin Witherspoon is a top 6 corner with that upside, similar to what usage was for L'Jarius Sneed last year. Now, not the exact same, I know that, but you see that safety / corner, not really safety / corner, really corner that is playing a role similar to a safety in that nickel that has the ability to blitz effectively, which he can do. He has the ability to drop back and actually play and not step off the field because they can move him out to the outside and line up. And he's really, really good in run D, which for Seattle, they may get ahead early and force teams to pass, but I think teams are going to want to try to run on them too.
I think so.
I think they have a lot of pieces. I'm intrigued with
which, if that holds true, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they can make teams pass against them, who else does that help? That helps them. Darryl Taylor and Watson on the
Did you see Darryl Taylor in the sling today?
No, I do not.
Yep, he was wearing a sling. He little shoulder, nothing major from what I understand, but it is a little notice right there. So let's see.
Why did you have to drop that on me at this time?
Because you need to know that.
I did need to know that, but I didn't need to know that.
Well, you do because it makes sense. But I'm here to educate you. And Jamie says he's about to draft some hot girls at this bar, so he'll definitely watch the rest of the show tomorrow. We appreciate you. What now, Jamie? Man, we're your best wingman you can possibly have. You can pretend this is some kind of syndicated show. We'll say your name.
All right.
Immediately, pants drop. Sorry, ladies, for watching. I'm totally kidding. That is sexist and not what I'm about. And
right. Just them knowing that you're watching Shoot the Gap with me and Nate, that's going to gain you a whole -2 followers.
I mean, it probably is. It gets you a beer bought. You never know what it. Have you ever been recognized anywhere for any of your fantasy stuff? I sure as hell haven't, other than the Fantasy Expo.
Hell, I don't even recognize myself sometimes.
Exactly. That's the best part about the expo, which, speaking of the Fantasy Football Expo, if you're watching this and you don't know about it, this coming weekend, next Thursday, really next Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the Fantasy Football Expo returns to Canton, Ohio. Bob Lung has brought together again, I think we're getting close to being able to say thousands now. Before it was hundreds of fantasy football degenerates, fans, analysts alike. And we get a chance to pretty much spend a weekend talking football with each other. And you know what? It doesn't even turn out to be talking football. I said that with a few of the guys that I get a chance to talk with every time we're there. And it's the one area that I think is ironic is that here's me and, Drew Davenport and Andy Barons and some of the guys that I see there exclusively. And we don't even talk football, which is a good thing, I guess, right? So that's that IDP. Ooh, there you go. Panel that we have is going to be excellent. Gary Davenport is hosting this year. I hosted the last couple of years, and he's by far the best dressed. We have Iggy, who's in here, has been their second. I don't want to say the second best dressed, but he's definitely up there for sure. And I'm sorry, I'm rambling. I'll let you pick out a team and talk about some of their picks, Hollywood. Why try to figure out.
I mean, we just talked about Witherspoon, which I thought was interesting, right? Let's see. Now, which way are we going? So we're going this way. Okay.
It's on me right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I have a question.
I'm looking for an inch. We talked about Harrison Smith at 9-1. That's a good split. Then you got Jalen Thompson at 9-3.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you in our rankings episode, our rankings episode, I had him at 7 or 8, if I remember correctly. And I said, I feel like I could take him all the way out of the top 12. And looking at this draft, maybe I should have. Because there's a lot of safeties and D-backs going in front of him.
Oh, yeah. No, that's the hard thing.
Either you're getting tremendous value right there, or I'm way off.
Well, I don't know about if I'm getting tremendous value.
At 9-3 with all the corners and safeties that went ahead of him, I'd say you're getting really good value.
Well, I'm definitely higher on Jalen Thompson than a lot of people. I really like. I'm actually really good with Harold Landry and Jordan Hicks. Jordan Hicks was an awesome pick, but I like Harold Landry. Vitor, I do. He's really happy about his team. Let's talk about that. I mean, number one, got two of the best pass rushers in football in Hassan Reddick and Brian Burns, followed up by the best defensive tackle, not named Aaron Donald, in my opinion, and Chris Jones. Another elite pass rusher in Jalen Phillips, which I think was, for me, I think that's the best value through that spot. I think Aaron Donald and Jalen Phillips both possess great value in that particular bunch right there. I'm just a big fan of Jalen Phillips, so I'm going to gush about him for a little bit. Fall back around with Matt Milano, Josie Jewell, both share some similar, ability to kind of do it all and should stuff the sheet. Ernest Jones, another good value spot right there for a high volume linebacker. Uchenna Nwosu, where if, Darrell Taylor, your guy's out, not that he wasn't going to see more snaps anyway, but that should lead to an increase. Levante David, criminally underrated year in and year out. Sure, the guy's 50 years old. I get it. But 150 tackles is not something that I would, or maybe we'll say 130. It's not outside the realm possibilities. You took Taylor anyway. Look at you. You don't care. Fuck that shoulder. And then Caden Ellis, love that spot there. Follows his defensive coordinator from New Orleans to Atlanta. I know he's going to play a ton on the edge, and he's going to see. I wouldn't be shocked. I don't know if he'll get the same number of sacks last year. I think that was kind of maybe, I don't want to say too efficient, but situationally, he knows the system. It's going to work out well. And then start finding, so covering the last, that's an interesting approach, Vitor. your defensive backs with the final 3 picks. And I wonder if you could do something, if you could do it differently, if you would. But I love the value that he had earlier. And it's like, I guess if you compromise at one position, Hollywood, which position is it defensive back that you would rather not punt, but wait on? And were you looking at Xavier McKinney, which I think that's tremendous value personally.
That is good value. Again, depends on scoring, right? Know you're freaking scoring. So if it's a league that's got premiums, I want to know what those are, corner and D tackle specifically, right? So if it's a balanced scoring league and corners score what linebackers do, you know what I mean? That type of deal, I'm probably willing to not cut anything. I stay with where I want to. But if your scoring is skewed a little bit, then I'm looking like position specific leagues, right? Where you have to start D tackles, you have to start corners. Then I'm cutting the defensive backs, the corners and the safeties. I'm cutting them and then attacking the D tackles. If I can't get one of that top, I'd have to remember what we ranked, but our top 12, I think after that, I'm kind of going back the other way because I think there's a premium there. So,
and that's another thing. Yeah, you're on the clock. So for people that are maybe, again, new to IDP or just want to start one, they get enough people interested. That's an area that I don't know if it's the beginner approach to have defensive tackle and cornerbacks, but I can tell you it definitely changes the strategy. When if you've been in some IDP leagues and it gets a little vanilla and doesn't really seem to get spicy enough, do that bad boy. Add some defensive tackles and quarterbacks into the mix and just see after the Chris Jones, Quinnen Williams, Dexter Lawrence, those guys go, just see where it could change the overall impression and the overall strategy that people may have. It's like when you add Superflex or you change from 2 wide receivers to say 3 wide receivers. As much as you say know your scoring, that's also a roster position, and understanding that, because if you are in a league where you start 3 receivers versus 2 and your flex spots are the same regardless, the value of a wide receiver is 15% more valuable because you have an extra spot that you have to fill. And the last thing you want to do is punt that 3rd spot and go with some garbage pick. And that just means anybody outside really the top 48 at wide receiver. So we wrapped up, man. That it was really quick. Obviously the fact that it was 60 seconds a pick. Do you like 60-second picks? I mean, putting you on the spot, making sure that you're prepared and know and give you an advantage knowing your depth.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm doing a league like this, where it's got a real quick draft, then 30 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever, because I feel like you're going to get a few auto picks, right? Whether everybody's on or not, odds are you're going to get a few auto picks here and there.
Yep.
And I think with that kind of pressure, I'll stack my ability to remember and not have to fumble through pages and rankings and all that,
Yeah. Well,
that's I've got a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah. I typically go in and I have at least like my top 40 at each position in my queue ready to go so I can kind of go from there to there. I did not do that. Then I went on auto. And then it was a snowball effect. Ended up with Hicks which I like both Hicks and Uchi. They're both 2 of the players that I'm actually okay with, especially in a league that, maybe might reward. Oh, they're both beneficial in both. Hicks is definitely a tackle heavy and Uchi is definitely big play more so than anything. And I think Sean's correct. Best value, CJ Mosley at 4.7 could very easily be one of the best values. Let's go round by round. Let's start in round 12, skim through round 12. And regardless of team needs, who is the the best value pick of that round?
Best value pick of round 12. Okay, so we started over here with Brian Branch Jackson, Honey Badger.
Like for me,
I think it's the first. Well, Eddie Jackson's definitely consideration. He gets hated on a lot.
That's a good point. You know what? I'm going to go. I like that. Oh, that's your pick. So of course that's going to be. But you're right. He is.
Well,
yeah, I think.
But I'm not hating Sam Hubbard on the last end of it either.
I don't hate Christian Harris personally.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, he's had a year right in that system. So,
and they've already said that it's basically it's a rotation between the other spots, and he's the lone wolf out there. So I mean, yeah, you have Eddie
could
Jackson.
Be scary, right? With what they're doing because they're so young. They got a new head coach. So we're talking about.
There you go, Sean. Yeah,
Harris. We were talking about Harris. So they got Henry To'oTo'o too, right?
Right.
He was at Alabama, who maybe not the most physically gifted, but mentally get your team lined up, call the plays. He's the guy, right? Plus he's pretty dang good. So
DeMeco Ryans, he's going to have his Bama
right as the coach. So you got those two, and then you got those edge rushers, right? Will Anderson Jr. and I forget his name. The young guy.
Yeah, it was Jonathan Grenard is on the one
side
back up.
My point is you're really young at 4 integral pieces, right? And you got Jalen Petrie back there. You got Derek Stingley. They're so young that they're going to get burnt and they're going to get torched, but they're going to have their flash games, right?
You did do great.
And all this is, and the hope is, hopefully this year, but realistically next year, this group, and you're adding a few more fire rookies to it, and they're going to be young. I hate to say it as a Tennessee fan, but that has the potential to scare me right there. Yeah, that defense with a defensive coach that young could be just scary because they don't know any better, right? Some of that shit, they just don't know any better, and they're just bam.
No, they'll be I think a team that, they don't exactly when you say they don't know any better. They don't know that they're supposed to be bad. They know the Texans haven't been a good team in 6 years or whenever it was at the last time they were quote unquote relevant. But yeah, they look around and they have to see offensively. You've got rookie and CJ Stroud, up and comer and Nico Collins, John Mechie, hopefully. Offensive line that should be better. I mean, between Laramie Tunsil, Kenyon Green's been, I was worried about last year, but he was young. And then, Titus Howard, you have good investment. You bring in Dalton Schultz, so you have some veteran presence, if you want to call it that. And then Damian Pearson, Devin.
I feel like that tight end spot's going to be key for them, ain't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think CJ Stroud's going to rely pretty heavily on that. But I think Nico Collins is going to be there. I think he's going to be their one. We're not here to talk about offense. So let's switch to the defensive side. As much as I would love to, I think it's only fair.
My fault. I got a sidetrack. My fault.
I understand. But no, you're right. Will Anderson, Jonathan Grenard, adding Sheldon Rankins in the middle is not a bad move for solidifying that. And they've got some depth pieces in Jerry Hughes and Chase Winovich. And, but at linebacker, like you said, we were talking about Christian Harris and then Denzel Perryman, Corey Littleton, Christian Kirksey. But Henry, that's why I think Henry To'oTo'o is going to have a faster path to snaps. And then just like we said, Jalen Petrie, Derek Stingley, Jimmy Ward, they're set for a good future going forward. In the 11th round, I'm looking there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Who's the one that stands out to you? Because I feel like there's a couple obvious ones.
So, like, the crazy thing is that and I know we said we weren't going to do it position specific, and I know that Highsmith can play defensive line, so he'll gain that eligibility. But if I'm Iggy and Cameron Hayward is my defensive line 2, that's who I'm looking at. I'm like, man, that's just solid value. And Sean, he bumps over 2 spots after, and big Jonathan Allen, who's always just, no matter the scoring format, always gets near the top of the that DB or DL2 range. He just constantly in the mix. Very underrated, very boring of a pick for many people because they don't see that splash. But every year you can just look at his numbers and it coincides. We missed anybody else in the 11th that you saw stood out?
Yeah, so Jamal Adams, right?
Fair enough.
And I got a question because this just triggered me. So I look. So Team 9 actually drafted both of these players that I'm fixing to talk about. So Jamal Adams won at pick 11-9, which is what? 120, 129 or so.
Sure.
Overall pick. So first of all, why is he falling that far? It's the injuries, right? It's the last few years. Okay. That's exactly my point. So now if you scroll up, same team. He took Shaq Leonard at 5'9". You're telling me there's that big of a difference between those two. If they're healthy, yeah, I'll give you that. Maybe. But that's not as far, that should not be that far off.
Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from. I think that the likelihood,
Am I right?
feel like,
would you have Leonard that much higher than Adams? Considering they can't walk outside and into the wind without getting hurt, right?
Right. Yeah, no, it's definitely not that at all. I mean, I think the gap should be closer. I think that's the question though with perception. It's like I'm the opposite. Like I feel like I feel that Jamal Adams will actually play more than I feel comfortable thinking Shaq Leonard will play. Yet the reports from camp are that Shaq Leonard looks as good as always, forever, blah, blah, blah. Jamal Adams hasn't done anything. So we're still waiting, to see what Jamal Adams will do. I mean, he was placed on the PUP, which we expected, but it was this quad injury and that he suffered in week 1 last year. And it just nagged and those soft tissues that never wanted to heal. I'm a little concerned that it's not better by now, but I'm also concerned by a person that has multiple back fusions, so let's be honest. Both value though. I think Team 9, it was an auto pick, we know, but I like both of those values. So 12, 11. All right.
No, but I'm glad that was an auto pick because that was a pretty good topic right there. Those two, I think
it was, and I think
been talked about a lot.
Absolutely. Let's look at back to back.
I know me and Sean talked about it on IDP Nation. We had talked about it, and I think I even ran a poll, and the poll was still kind of skewed way towards Leonard too. So I don't know. I just think it's way closer than that. But.
So in 10th round, back-to-back linebackers, teams 4 and team 5. Eric Kendricks, Divine Diablo. I know there's 2 completely different linebackers. We have one who's, quote unquote, on the upswing in Diablo, and Kendricks is on the downturn of his career. But I gotta tell you, I really like those spots there. Sean, his two for this round. Harold Landry and Jordan Poyer. Yeah, Jordan Poyer always is another name that I think we can find. I think we're making a case pretty well for waiting on defensive back. I know we said this earlier and we talked about it, and it was kind of like, yeah, and then, you took Derwin James, and in the 3rd round, I take Kyle Hamilton. If I had waited, Kevin Byard in the 5th was my first, and Jalen Thompson and then Jordan Poyer, I would have been just as fine to take in someone like Alex Highsmith instead of Kyle Hamilton, or even one of the 2, Aaron Donald, Chris Jones right there. I would have been fine. So I don't know if I'm going to change my approach necessarily, because you never know, because these things come in, defensive back spurts, but a lot of good value there. You had touched on in round 9, Harrison Smith, which I think is incredible. Like I said, Jalen Thompson, who of the defensive line, which is thin, but we've got Josh Sweat, Rashawn Gary, Tyree Wilson, and I'll leave the others since they're more, inside. Of those 3, who would you rather take at that position? Sweat, Gary, or Wilson?
Yeah. When now I'm taking Sweat or Gary, and I'd probably go Sweat because I think I trust him to be more healthy, be on the field. Right? We're still kind of skeptical of Gary, right, and his return from his injury. Everything that I've heard and seen, he's on pace to be good to go, right? So,
right.
Wish Kyle was here. We could pick his brain. He would know. But I think for me, I think they're similar, right? I mean, most people would say Gary, I think, but I think Sweat's just as good, right? I mean, he's been more than what Washington expected, right? He's been better than Chase Young at times, so I just think he's a fit with those defensive tackles. I think Sweat's the one I would go with, but I think a lot of people would say Gary.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree. I'm a big Josh Sweat fan. I liked him last year when there was more rotation, more mouths to feed, if you will, or snaps to be shared. And if there's one concern, I don't believe that either Preston Smith or Van Ness are capable of taking snaps away from Rashawn Gary, but it wouldn't shock me to know that they have depth pieces like that to give Gary more time off and make him be a little, he has to be more efficient with fewer snaps. And I know he's capable, but I want the higher snap, I would say, floor. And I think that's probably going to be Sweat, despite the fact they have so many pieces. His health kind of goes in. The round before, Lucas Van Ness mentioned, he goes right there. I took Kwity Paye, but I got to tell you, like, I see a name, and he was recently signed, and that's Cam Jordan. I think Cam Jordan is a value there.
Yeah, he is, right? I mean, I was pretty high on him in my rankings. So, 2-year deal. He stays with what's familiar, what he knows. You don't have to deal with all that stuff. He's financially secured. He gets to ride out his time in New Orleans.
Yep.
And you can see 2 of the best years from him ever right here. Personally, that signing that contract took a lot off of his mind, right? Whether he wanted to say it was, weighing on him or not, it's always in the back of your mind. So it takes a toll. So I think just having all that stuff out and staying where you know what's what.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
I like that. That's good value.
They brought in Colin Sanders from Kansas City, who the one thing, so like, I guess, how much did Onyemata miss any time last year or not? I can't remember if he did. And the only reason I ask is because I don't want to say it's an upgrade or a downgrade from him to Saunders, but they play different styles, and I wonder if that's going to play into or against Cam Jordan. I can't imagine it doesn't matter personally, because he's done pretty much the same thing every year consistently with no matter who's next to him. Is it Marcus Davenport?
Played every game last year.
Okay, so he's with Atlanta now, so he's gone.
It was the year before that he missed 6 games.
Okay, gotcha. And it's just, you always wonder a little bit of the moving pieces, what effect that will have. No kidding else, but I'm right there with. Yeah, I love that spot for Cameron Jordan. I think that's fine. Like, personally, when you see some of the names going around him, and even before, I like DeForest Buckner. Hell, his last pick prior was Gregory Rousseau. I trust Cam Jordan more than Gregory Rousseau. But
absolutely.
I know that Rousseau's younger, and maybe maybe he's on the precipice or moving forward. I don't necessarily feel the same way, but at the same time, Epinesa hasn't done anything to really supplant himself. So it's still Rousseau's line.
So what about oh, never mind.
What?
So I was going to ask you about David Long.
Mm-hmm.
Where I got him. Is that too low? 9-11? I mean, I feel like that's
no. I think that's
there. I know.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think we know that he's going to step in, and next to Jerome Baker, they're going to play. I got to think 1,000 snaps, 950 snaps plus should be my prediction or projection for David Long. And if you're going to give 950 plus snaps as far as a what round is that? The 9th round?
It was 9-11. I think I got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
9th round, 11th pick. So 107th overall.
Yeah. You give me a linebacker that is capable of getting close to the 1,000 snaps, 120 plus tackles, and consistently, I say consistently healthy. I don't know if that's a fair thing to say because he did miss time 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But not last year. So no, I think the value there is fine. I'm trying to think who's another player. Plus, I hate Jerome Baker.
Right.
Well, I take it back. David Long missed time at the end of last year, so I got to be careful with my health. What we got here?
So shit around, man. Come on.
Sorry for the dead time if you're listening, going what these two idiots talking about, but I'm trying to read the small little baby print. And then Sean in the 7th is DeForest Buckner, and Cole Holcomb are his favorite in the 7th. And DeForest Buckner is, I mean, as far as consistency, as far as defensive line go, there's few better. I can tell you, Hollywood, we joked about San Francisco and the concern they had, the Javon Kinlaw experiment, which didn't work out. Yeah. Now it's the Javon Hargraves redo for losing DeForest Buckner. Imagine how good that defense line would have still been if they had him. Holy hell. Cole Holcomb, I appreciate that. I do like the value. He's always
Al-Shaair is it though, right? In the 7th round.
I'm fine with both. I think that they're both. I mean, I have Cole Holcomb higher than Al-Shaair in my rankings, but not by much, by a couple spots. And I have him higher than everybody else in that round for sure. What about 6? Because I like Cameron Curl. I think 6 is there's a lot of the defensive back, the corners taken. I mean, Patrick Surtain. I mean, CJ Gardner-Johnson's not a corner, but both. He's battling some injuries.
I tell you what.
Tariq Woolen. That's Reek Woolen, by the way.
Yours is Darius Smith and my Jeffrey Simmons and Ernest Jones.
Ernest Jones. I was getting ready to say Vitor with Ernest Jones. Really solid, I think
those three stand out to me in that round, right?
Yeah.
And I think you have to lean towards Ernest Jones of those three just because of the volume, the position.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I'm not hating either Smith or Simmons for me and you that we picked, though.
Yeah, no. I needed a pass rusher and a solid defensive line capable for my 2 behind, because Montez Sweat wasn't my favorite number 1. Very disappointed that I overlooked Donnell Hunter. Not overlooked him, just didn't find him in time, because that's one of my favorite picks of the whole thing, because there's no doubt that Minnesota is going to be in a position where they're ahead, or at least in shootouts, and Hunter's going to have plenty of action. But rounds 1, 2, 3, 4, all the picks are going to be good. We got a minute left, Hollywood. Let's leave it in style. And, I don't want us to claim anybody's best team or anything, because I don't like doing that to people. But I will say that when we do the next mock, how do you want to do it? And we're going to set it up right now. You're going to make that decision. Okay. Is it going to be an IDP only? Is it going to be an IDP and offense?
How many rounds? 12 again?
Well, if we do offense,
probably have to have a little more if it's combined, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I'd like to do IDP only.
Okay.
But
there you
go. No, hold on. Personally, I like to do IDP only, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like at this time of year, every single year, I get asked the same question. How do you value IDPs against offense? And it's not just rookies, it's overall. So I think with a lot of redrafts and rookie drafts, I say we do them both, offense and IDP.
So then next week, what we'll do is we will have
Now you got to vote too now, so come on now.
I'm doing so next week it's going to have to be Thursday night. It might have to pass and be the following week. We're going to have to plan this out and see.
Whatever you need, just let me know.
We will look into this. My guess is that we will do a blend of the two. It'll either be next week or the following. I'll let everybody know because the expo's coming up and I may be busy, but we will do this again. And anybody out there, Sean, we're talking about having you and anybody else that wants to jump on, join us, and we'll do one of these with the offense as well. And we'll figure out a day. I'll send out all you guys a note and let everybody know, and we'll go that direction. And then, but in the meantime, obviously I know the majority of you watching right now probably are already subscribers to the YouTube channel and follow all the work over at Fantasy and Frames. If you don't yet, please change that now. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, go over to fantasyandframes.com, take a look at any of the articles and IDP targets we have coming out, offensive side of the ball, redraft, every day of the week. On this YouTube channel, you can find content coming out from Fantasy or Fourth and Frames, Dynasty 365. Our best ball, the girls last night drafted a $125, I think FFPC or FPPC, whichever one it is. I can't get the letters right.
Wow.
Amazing draft last night. It is just, it's nonstop. If you can't get your fantasy fix through the Fantasy and Frames channel, then I'm going to tell you.
Best time of year, is it not?
It really is.
Rookie drafts, redrafts, freaking preseason's cranked up. People are trading. All fantasy managers are back in tune now, right? They didn't take the damn summer off because they can't handle it and all that bullshit, right? So this is the sweet spot right here, right? Now the pressure's on. You're crossing the T's, dotting the I's, putting the bows on.
Yep.
Because just a few short weeks, other than what you can do on waivers and maybe some trades, it's push them all in and go, right?
Yep, that's exactly right. So
wait.
I know. And obviously we're here for you guys every week throughout the season. We'll keep you posted with our Shake It Off episode or port segments where we talk about, where we figure out the waiver wire, guys, maybe who let you down. We will take a look at the waiver wire of the previous week, see who we expect to be booms, busts, etc., and just overall go over the news. But for Hollywood, you can find him at Hollywood Titan, me at Nate Markham. Follow mostly at Fantasy and Frames for everything else. And for our friend Jorge, I hope you are feeling better, and we will have you back on very soon. See you guys all next week.